Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me and Pnina today. As you guys know, one of my favorite things in this group is I get to do interviews with real people about their healing, and it lets you guys know that the struggle is real for sure, but also that healing is really possible. So I'm so grateful. I've been waiting for this for years. Pnina's willing to come on and share her story and battling infertility for years and years, being told it was impossible to have kids naturally, to having done that. So I'm so excited for her to share. For those of you who are new, I'm Michal, LeBaron, your host at Wholehearted Healing, and I teach people how to eliminate autoimmune and chronic illness without the need for ongoing supplements, diets, therapies, treatments, band-aids, and to do so quickly and easily by teaching you to regulate your nervous system and address the root cause of the symptoms. And I love what I do, and I went from bedridden to fully healthy, so it's definitely a big passion of mine. So Pnina, to get us started, maybe would you just introduce yourself so people know you're a real human on the planet, and maybe tell us a few things about yourself?
Sure. My name is Pnina. I am a mom of 4, and I used to live on a farm. Actually, recently moved off my farm, but yeah, I'm a baseball mom. We right now we're in baseball season. We're like we have games basically every day, so it's awesome. It's pretty cool. It's kind of amazing.
I love it, Pnina. And you are such a mom and are such a nurturing person. Like it's just who you are. I know you well for many years. Yes, and it's so cool that the topic that we're going to talk about today is infertility, because how cool is that? So, all right, let's dive in. Can you give us the scoop of what it was like before this work and just all the things that you tried with infertility?
Yeah, so I got married about 17 and a half years ago, and we kind of just assumed we were going to have a family because that's, especially culturally, that's what we do. And in fact, like I had a career that I wanted to have, but we discussed shortly into our marriage that like we don't want the career to trump family, so we'll start a family and then we'll do my career. And then we went through 4 years of cycle after cycle after cycle of not getting pregnant. And, for the first year, they tell you, oh, it's normal. Don't worry about it. Everybody takes time. And then it just kept dragging on. And we actually got to the point where we were like, well, maybe careers where the direction we need to go. And we did an IVF cycle, and thank God we got pregnant. But this was, I'm skipping a lot of, actually, I should back up a second, because like we went through, so once the year, about a year and a half went by and we weren't pregnant, they put us, first they started us on Clomid. Oh, my magic baby wants to come into the video. We did medication. Then we did, like with a lot of monitoring. Then they did trigger shots, and then that didn't work. And then they did IUI, and that didn't work. And then we did, hey, I'm trying to. He's like, I want to give you guys my 2 cents too. So then, we got to the point where they had the hard conversation and said, we've tried everything. And the next step, the only thing left is IVF. And IVF is a fortune. I mean, it's just a very expensive and painful process. There's, the actual cost of the IVF, there's the medication, there's shots, they hurt. It's like it's an incredibly emotionally challenging process. And we ended up in a very unique situation where a doctor who's a friend of the family actually did our IVF for us as a gift, which was a miracle in and of itself, because we were sitting at home trying to figure out, like, how are we going to afford this? Like, what, so anyway, we ended up being able to do IVF, and we did get pregnant the first cycle. And we had twins at 24 weeks, which was a whole nother adventure. They're now 12 and healthy and strong and wonderful children. And then we, a few years later, actually got to do another IVF cycle. And we had another boy, a singleton this time, who was born at 41 and a half weeks. So no more preemie. We went from teeny little baby to like giant baby. It was funny. But you know, we were told like there's no way you're ever going to get pregnant without IVF. And they couldn't tell us why either, which was very frustrating to me, because they have like all these stages between, you know, all these different things that they can do medically. And they didn't work, and they weren't, and there was never like this is why it's not working. It was kind of like well, now we got to move to the next thing, and now, you know, now we got to do the $20,000 IVF or whatever it is, you know, like,
Yep.
But it could be like, this is why, right?
Yep.
Other than I just didn't ovulate, but they couldn't tell me why, like what, and that always bugged me. So I guess I have this, I'm blessed with a really strong faith. And I always say like, it's a blessing and a curse, because on the one hand, I never gave up that I could have kids. Like every month it was like, maybe this will be the month. But then every month it was this massive letdown, even though the doctors had told me like, you're not getting pregnant on your own. So we fast forward a whole bunch to, was almost 3 years ago now when I met you. It was a little more, because when I actually met you was like three years ago. And I had been going through, so part of my issue, if you will, was that my cycle was completely dysregulated. Like I never had a normal period. It's always one of those things that people would be like, oh, I'm going to be getting my period next week. You know, what is that? I don't know what I'm talking about. Like I always had to bring supplies with me, because even if I had just stopped, it could start. And even if like I could, you know, like I could bleed for like a month and then it would stop. And then 2 days later, I'd start bleeding again. And culturally, that was a big problem, because when I was bleeding, I couldn't even pass something to my husband, let alone, you know, get a hug, because my cycle had failed again, you know? So it was a really rough time. And around,
Do you mind sharing, just for those who don't know, you mentioned culture twice, like, can you tell them what that means?
Yeah, I'm an Orthodox Jew. So I didn't know if you wanted, but so there's a lot of rules around when you're menstruating, when you're allowed, what you're allowed to do. And I mean, like, and it's super strict, like to the point of I don't even sit at a table alone with my husband without having an item in between us to be like, remind us that we're not even allowed any physical contact. So I had been bleeding for like 4 months, and it was really
exhausting,
hard.
Yeah.
And doctors were kind of like, well, you're not bleeding heavily, like you're, you know, not bleeding enough that it's like a danger to you. And I was like, but I can't even hug my husband. And it's just like, it was just uncomfortable. And it's just, you know, and so my PCP did some testing, and she gave me a medication that was supposed to, because I had very high testosterone levels. And so she gave me a medication that was supposed to bring down my testosterone. It made my testosterone go up, which she was like, well, never saw that happen before. Yes. And then I actually reached out to the doctor who did my IVF, because he was also, I mean, he became a friend. He always treated us like we were his kids. And I was like, what can I do? And he's like, the only thing you can do is go on birth control. And I'm like, but I want to get pregnant. He goes, Pnina, you're not getting pregnant on your own. That's never happening. So you might as well go on birth control and regulate your cycle so you can spend time with your husband. And I'm like, but I had been on birth control in the past and it always messed with my system. It made me miserable emotionally and physically. And I just knew I didn't want to go on hormonal birth control. And I was just like, there's nothing I can do. And I went back to my PCP and I was like, anything, like, you got to give me something. And so she told me go gluten-free and vegan. And I was like, okay, fine. Like, I was at the point where I was willing to do anything. And so I went gluten-free and vegan, and I got really, really, really sick. I don't know if you remember, because we knew each other, and I was just like, I got migraines instantly, and I had no energy, and I was eating a lot of food. I felt like I was so sick. And I went back to the doctor and I was like, I think this diet's making me sick. And she said, no, it can't make you sick that fast. And I remember Michal said to me, she's like, you were like, Pnina, you need meat. You need meat. You have to go eat meat. Like, for your body, you need meat. And it was shortly after that, I think, that I started working with you, because I was like, okay, fine. I was like, because can we jump to like how skeptical I was?
Sure, let's go there.
When I met you and you told me what you did, I was like, okay. You're crazy. I like you, but you're totally off your rocker. Like,
how many of y'all in the group can relate?
This will work. And I just couldn't do it, and I wasn't open to it. And after, I had tried all these things, and I still was having a period, and I was so sick from like the diet that the doctor had put me on. I was just like, okay, fine, that's it, I'll try it. I was like, do you remember what I told you? Because I remember so clearly. I don't know if you remember this. I told you, I was like, I said, here's the deal. I will never be one of those people that is like, yeah, it's working. It's making me feel better. I was like, I'm not going to pretend. I will tell you that it's baloney and it doesn't work. I will tell you that you're full of it. And I remember so clearly you were like, please do. Those are exactly the kind of people I like to work with.
Yep.
Like,
I love it.
I remember I talked to my husband before I actually started, and I was like, I don't know, because I was like, I told her that I don't believe it. I told her I'm willing to try it, but I told her I really don't believe it. And he goes, did like she really understand that you're really not? I was like, I told her I don't believe any of it, but I'm willing to try. And it worked.
Yeah. It worked. I love it, Pnina. I'm taking notes too on things I can mention, because you're saying gold. I want to keep you talking though. Hold on. We're going to talk about not believing it.
Okay.
And you guys got to remember, I mean, I was there myself. I tried dozens of conventional options, holistic options, got to the point I was bedridden for a few years, kept trying stuff. None of it worked, or some of it kind of helped a little bit of some of the time. And nobody could tell me why I was sick or what to do to get better. So, I mean, rewind 20 years, I would have thought I was nuts. I never thought that I would be here saying what I'm saying now. And then a master's in nutrition, functional medicine training, all the science and all the stuff and all the lab tests and all of the clinical side of everything. And still that didn't get people well, and it didn't get me well. So to think I'd have to go this far outside the box to get to the root cause surprises me. even sometimes to this day. But it's beautiful because it does work. And all you have to do is being sick of where you're at and willing to do the work. So you won't believe it till you're on the other side. Like, oh my God, it worked. What? Okay, so do you mind talking about where you're at now? And you had this baby boy naturally, and anything you want to say about just what you got out of the program and being healthy? And
so before I get to where I'm
and
at
people
now,
might be like, but how did you do it?
about like my journey with you, like through the past couple of years, because this was a journey. And the interesting thing, like, I don't know, the whole time I think I went into it thinking I wasn't even going into it with the idea of having a baby. I remember you said to me, because I was just so frustrated with the cycle that would never end, like the period that would never end. That's really what did it for me. And I remember at our initial meeting, you said, I'm standing in, like, I can't remember the exact term you used, but like, you're like, I'm standing in the place of you healthy, or I don't remember exactly how you put it.
Probably, yeah, like I'm standing at your graduation where you can have a baby. Yeah.
And you like, and that you could have a baby. And I was like, I remember I was like, well, that would be nice. But that wasn't even, I couldn't even really believe that when I started. When I started, it was just like, help me regulate my cycle. Like, I can't live like this. I cannot live with a 4-month period.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even until I think I had started tracking my ovulation and realized I was ovulating every month that I finally went, oh, like, I actually could get pregnant. Like, you know, and then I did. And like, it was so funny because the cycle I got pregnant on, I wasn't monitoring as closely because it was Passover and life was insane and we were traveling, and I was like, okay, whatever. I've been, tracking my cycle for like, I think it was like 6 months. I'd been tracking my cycle. I was like, 1 month of not tracking is not going to do anything. But I still knew when I ovulated because I could tell, I could feel it. And so I was semi-aware, but there was like no, like, it wasn't really, there was no pressure. There was nothing. We were just like, kind of, okay, this cycle's a wash. And I remember a couple days before I should have got my period, it was like 11 o'clock at night. And I'm sitting at home going, I have no symptoms. Like, there's nothing that says I'm going to get my period. I think it was actually supposed to be the next day. I was like, there's nothing that says that. And my mind went, oh, well, we should do a pregnancy test. But I have, for the past 17 years, done this to myself so many times, like, where it's dead in your head and you're like, oh, this must be the month. And oh, I'm nauseous. Maybe I'm pregnant. Or my boobs hurt. Maybe I'm pregnant, and it wasn't even, and it was funny because it was in that moment, it was so real because there was no fake symptoms. Like, I did not feel nauseous. I did not have boobs that hurt. I did not have anything. The only thing I didn't have was that PMS-y, like, headachy, like, just like a little bit of, and through this work, I had actually got to the point where I wasn't feeling very much of that anyway, but there was always some kind of a little clue that you knew.
You can feel it. Yeah.
Usually. Things are coming, and there was nothing. And I was like, maybe I should do a pregnancy test. And I was like, no, don't do that to yourself. It's 2 days early. Like, why would you torture yourself like that? Because I always felt like I would take the test and then it would be negative. And then I would get my period. And I was like, oh, it's because I took the test. Which is silly.
Yep.
But that's what I did.
Yep.
But like, the other part of me was like, take the test. So I did at 11 o'clock at night. And I knew, like, first urine in the morning is always better. And, you always want to, like, give yourself the best shot at getting the pregnant, the positive, even, because especially because you're early and you want the high level of HCG. And like, I knew all those things. And then emotionally, I just took a test. And I waited the time and I looked at the test and I was like, there's 2 lines. And like one of the lines is a little bit lighter than the other. And I ran upstairs to my husband, who was asleep. I busted into the room and I like threw the test at him. And he was like, the poor guy is like half asleep. And he looks and he goes, what does this mean? And I was like, you know what it means. He goes, but one of the lines is lighter. I was like, oh, it doesn't matter. As long as there's a line, like it's a positive. So it was just like, it was so cool because for the past, year or even just 6 months that I had been ovulating regularly, I was like, this is a possibility. And there it was. And then it took all my self-control to not call you at midnight.
I remember the text right when I woke up, but yeah, it wasn't like in the middle of the night.
Wait till the morning, wait till the morning, wait till the morning. I think I dreamed the whole night about how I was going to tell you.
Oh yeah, you didn't text me the test. I remember you texted me earlier, oh my God, the testosterone levels are down, or oh my gosh, here's the ovulation test, or whatever.
So that was actually much earlier. That was months earlier. We retested testosterone. Yeah. And it was normal for the first time in my life. The actual blood test was normal, which
without meds. Yeah.
Meds, when I tried the meds, they made it go higher.
Yep, which we know why, but not to tangent, but we know why. But anyway, yes, you texted me, like, can you have a moment to talk today or something? And I flipped out. Because I lay in my bed and I check my messages. Sometimes, you guys, I check your emails, like I'm thinking about you almost all the time. I flew out of bed. Yes. Oh, and then I was just on the edge of my seat, and then we both cried. So that's how that went. And a healthy pregnancy and a healthy baby boy, and just so proud of you. So I love sharing this story. So let me chat on some of the things you said. I love that you said that nobody could tell me why. The doctors didn't tell me why the treatments weren't working, or why the meds made it worse, or it's basically just a guessing game. Well, let's try this. Notice they tell you that. Okay, that didn't work. We're going to try this. Or we're going to try that instead. Well, as a last result, we'll try that. And that's even in the language. And in my experience, or just logically, it's like, well, why are we going to try stuff if we don't even know why? What's happening is happening. And once you know why, that should be the first step. Then once you know why you have symptoms, wherever you're at, then you can actually put together a plan that's really going to work. And so number one is we first ask the question, why first? And we keep going. Well, why that? Well, why that? Well, why that? Until we can actually come to a root cause or a root source that we can start addressing. And if it doesn't work, or something works funky, not the way we expected, it's like, oh, well, why? And we keep going until we can find the root cause. You also said that the doctors said, after you painted this picture of how crazy your cycle was, that one of the doctors said, well, it's not enough that it's a problem. And in my brain explodes at that. Like, can you guys think of that logically? Are you kidding me? Like, this is a completely insane cycle with constant bleeding. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, so what, is she anemic now? Is she like, I'm like, you need your blood. Like, what else is happening because of that problem, and the side effects of having that problem go unmanaged? And the doctors, in their view, say, well, it's not enough that it's a problem. And that's pretty much all of the clients I see has a doctor that tells them, well, their lab tests aren't bad enough, or the problem isn't bad enough for medical intervention, but it's because they don't know how to address, or even oftentimes test for the root causes. The other thing you mentioned that a doctor said is, well, it can't make you worse. The diet can't make you worse that fast. So again, that's them in a box of what they know, the limited realm of what they've learned, versus getting outside the box and saying, well, clearly it did. So let's start investigating that. And a lot of my clients tell me, you're the first person that listened. You're the first person that paid attention. You're the first person that said, okay, let's test more things then, you know, and usually they tell me that I'm the first person that actually figured it out. And the last few things you said is, you know, you got to the point in your journey and your suffering where you really were willing to do anything, and you were willing to get outside of the box that you knew, right? And the box of what was familiar. And many of us don't realize this, but we all have biases. And a big bias is a familiarity bias. And it means it's a lens through which we see life. And so because we're pumped from the media and from doctors and from, you know, just our culture, you know, that medicine is the only real way, or whatever it is, we develop unknowingly these familiarity biases where we feel comfortable doing something we've at least heard about a few times. Whereas if something's completely unknown to us, our familiarity bias won't even let us. That's really scary. And the danger of this is when we stay in our familiarity bias, it's going to keep producing the same results that we've always had. It's not going to work. So for the people, my clients are the ones who've already tried everything. That's what they tell me. Even if I'm like, well, it's only in this one little realm, you know, but it's like, you have to get outside. You have to get into the realm of what you don't even know you don't know about in order to find real results. Go ahead, Pnina.
Add that while working with you, like I found, you know, each time that I was like, I don't know, I'm not comfortable with that, or that doesn't make sense to me, I really appreciated that you took the time to really educate me. You would be like, here's something you can read about it. Here's what, you know, what I know. Here's how I did it. Or like, it was something that I was uncomfortable with. You're like, here's how you can research it. This is why, you know, and it was never, or I should say it was rarely this is how we do it. And you just have to you need to fix your, you know, you need to get on board or get, you know, or get out. Like I really, that was really important to me, to have someone who was like, okay, you're not comfortable with this. Why? What's going on here? Here's what, you know, here's what I think is going on. You know, maybe you can look at it this way, maybe, you know, so it was never like, oh, well, if you can't do my program, then just, you know, goodbye, which happens sometimes to people. So I feel like that's
I love it. Well, and it doesn't happen sometimes, it happens all the time, especially in the conventional system. It's like, here's the treatment, do it or get out. Right?
Yeah. But I feel like also even friends I've spoken to who have done, you know, natural programs or like health coaching stuff with other people are like, well, it didn't work. And they said it was because I wasn't able to, you know, or I wasn't in the right place to do it. And I feel like you really sometimes schlepped me along. Like you were like, come on, Pnina, let's get you over this hump together. You know, it was never like, oh, well, you're on that side of the mountain, I'm on this side of the mountain. If you can't get over the mountain, that's your problem.
Yep. No, I love it. That is my heart, because I had to schlep myself over the mountain. So I really, really care to handhold and walk with you guys. I love that, Pnina. And last thing you said is, I didn't believe it, but I'm willing to try. And what I usually tell people is, you won't believe it until it's real for you. You won't believe it until you're there. And you're one of the people on these interviews. By the way, all the people on these interviews said they didn't believe it at the beginning. All of them. None of them believed it. Why? Because they didn't even know it was possible. You're not going to know it's possible till it works for you, but you do have to take that leap of faith.
It's possible. You know how many people told me it was not possible? So many people told me that it was impossible.
Yep.
I had proven that I couldn't get pregnant on my own. 17 years.
Yep.
You know, who gets pregnant normally after 17 years of trying?
Yep. Yep. So what I tell you guys is, well, you're just not my doctor. You tell me it's not possible, you're not my doctor. That's what I had to do for myself, because I was told I had permanent genetic disorders, permanent autoimmune diseases, that I had mysterious symptoms and all sorts of things that was a life sentence. They told me I would have to manage it forever instead of just solving the problem and becoming a normal, healthy person again. So thank you, Pnina. I hope people are paying attention to your powerful story. Do you mind sharing, just kind of as a last tidbit, were there any other parts of your life that as you became healthy, it changed those parts of your life?
Yeah, there were. I think the two biggest areas were my marriage, which is fascinating because we did not work this program together. Only I did. And my husband recognizes the changes. And it's funny because now he tells people about the program. And if you thought I was skeptical,
Oh yeah.
I can just tell you. My husband was like so far more skeptical. But we communicate better and kinder, and just we're a stronger team. I get a lot less offended because I can find my own responsibility and stuff better. And then the other area, as I say, it's funny because I say the side effect of the program was my fibromyalgia almost went away. Like I was in so much pain that I couldn't walk down the stairs some mornings. And I think that that's also another moment in the program where I was like, there's something to this, because I wasn't getting migraines every single day, multiple times a day. Like I stopped getting the migraines and I started to not hurt as much. And I was just like, oh, it's not even what I'm working on. you know? Maybe I could do a whole nother program. I probably should do a whole nother program on that. But but like it fixed so much that I like as a side effect. And what kind of medication, or not medication, but what kind of you can't find a medication where you're like, the side effect is I feel better. No, it's always like, oh, the medication fixed this and the side effect is that it's like those commercials, and you watch the medication commercials and they're like, let's fix your stuffy nose and then we'll give you a headache and a stomach ache and diarrhea and constipation and like all of these problems. So the side effect was that I felt better emotionally too, like just totally different place, just completely different place. My therapist, because I was also seeing a mental health therapist before I started, and during, and she was kind of blown away too. She's like, the changes in you is incredible. You're almost like a different person.
Yep.
Yes, I am.
I tell people now, I say, we're going to learn how you're an unhealthy person. And we'll talk about your symptoms in the beginning and we'll talk about them at the end and review them. But the symptoms are a side effect of how you're unhealthy in your life and how you can't manage and navigate your life and stress. And it's so cool because at the end of their program, we pull up everything they said about themselves, how they feel about their day and their life and their family. And we look at how they feel now, and it's totally night and day. In fact, oftentimes they've forgotten. What I hear is, I forgot I ever said that. I haven't experienced that in months. Like, I'm not even that same person. I'm not even that same mom anymore. So I'm not that same wife. So every area of your life is affected. And thanks so much for sharing. And we do often see people they've tried therapy for years or whatever. And then, they come to us and we start dealing with a deeper, more root issue, and boom, they get it. They start getting it and changing. So you really will change. And yeah, is there anything else you want to say to people who maybe have been in the group for a while and they're kind of in the place? I was thinking this morning, I'm like, none of you guys believe you can be well. How do I know this? Because we tell you and we show you for years, and I get maybe a couple of people reach out to me a month who are ready. The rest of you are like, oh, that's cool, but it's like not real to you that you guys can heal and that you can heal rapidly. So Pnina, is there anything you want to say to people in the group, or maybe those that are on the fence or super skeptical or are worried about the commitment or the investment?
Yes. It just, like my husband said to me the other day, he said, Pnina, if we had a crystal ball and we knew we would have the baby at the end of this, because like we wouldn't have even had like the discussions never would have happened. The like, should we do it? Should we not? Is it worth it? Is it, because it is worth it, because he's
Everything.
he's here. He's everything. He's our magic baby, as we call him, our magic baby.
So beautiful. I love it. And you once told me, it reminds me, we were in a discussion about, did you want to go into some of our other programs or not, or whatever? And we were looking at what was important to you. And you said, I got everything I ever wanted. Why would I do more? I have everything I've ever wanted. And it just hit me like, damn, like, whoa, that's a really powerful statement. Like, I don't know how many people on the planet can say that. Yeah. So I'm so proud of you. I know the work
that is the one other thing. And because you just jogged my memory on that. And I always said I never wanted to be a mother, a stay-at-home mother. I wanted to be a mother, but I never wanted to be a stay-at-home mother. In other words, I wanted children, but there were other things that were way more important to me. And I wasn't happy being a mother when I started this program. And there's literally nothing else in the world that I want more than these kids and this family that I have right now. And that also is because of the work I did in the program. And it's not easy being a mother. It's not. It's a huge job, and it's a constant in your face, indication of all the things you're doing wrong, and all, like it's constantly in your face, and it's hard, and and I don't want to do anything else because I love it.
Oh, beautiful. Yep. Your experience of being a mom changed, which is, that's what this is about. That's how we're healthy. And when we have internal peace and joy and happiness, and we know we're going to be okay, and we can handle anything, any part of our life, that's where our bodies also follow suit and become healthy. So beautiful share, Pnina. Thank you so much for sharing. And for those of you who want to go down the path that Pnina went down, you're no longer willing to suffer or to buy into the beliefs that your illnesses are a lifetime sentence, or that it's never possible for you to heal. Just like Pnina heard, and just like I heard from doctors in the medical community, and even holistic practitioners, as well-meaning as they were, said, "Oh no, you'll manage this forever. Just manage it our way, not the medical way." Wait, what? We want to talk with you and help you discover what is the root cause of your illnesses. How are you an unhealthy person, and how can you turn on your body's ability to rapidly repair so you can have everything you want in life, just like Pnina got. So I will put in the comments below a link to schedule a free breakthrough call or a free consultation. We'll review everything your medical doctors have done. I'll give you a second opinion on your lab tests, because likely, 100% of the time I see that doctors do not do adequate testing, even in their own field. And we'll see what's missing, and we'll see when you turned on your illnesses, and we'll look deeper and figure out exactly what you need to get to where you need to go, and do that rapidly. So thank you so much. Anything else, Pnina, before we wrap up?
No, just do it. Just do it, because you really have everything to gain. And it's not as scary once you're at the other end of it.
Yeah, definitely not. Cool. Yeah, and I would say go outside your comfort zone. Your healing is outside your comfort zone, which means that it'll be also stay tuned, guys. We're going to be doing some seminars. We're going to get those going in the next free seminars, so you guys can walk through for yourselves the kinds of things I'm teaching in this group, and you'll see the paradigm through which you see your illness. You'll see a new paradigm. We'll walk you through the steps that we teach to get people well, and get people well quickly, so you leave with complete clarity and purpose, and knowing exactly why you want to get well. And And so stay tuned on that. So thanks, Pnina, so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I hope everyone does too. And thanks for joining us on this interview. Bye-bye. We all love you.